What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got for you the second part in the Noisy Gob series. A couple of days ago I posted part 1, which was the first post and 8 updates, the first 8 updates to this saga. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please do go ahead and check out that episode before you watch and listen to this one. I will leave a link down below in the pinned comment and also in the description. You need to go and watch that for this one to make any sense. But in this one, we are in to update 9 now. Just for a quick recap of what's happened so far, the owner of a contracting firm, Noisy Gob, has fired a subcontractor working on a very specialized historic building, a listed building in the UK, without realizing that pretty much no one else in the country, in the entirety of the UK, apart from 20 other people, literally 20 other people, can do that work. And they're all busy. And it's led to a lot of craziness, as you can imagine. We left the story with Noisy Gob employing a Bulgarian to finish off the work, with David, the hero of the story, I suppose, knowing that that work just isn't going to be done to the correct standards. Okay then, here is update 9. Lots of news. The Bulgarian finished the job and went home 2 weeks ago. According to the people who met him, Stefan, the Bulgarian, was a good guy and a very hard worker. He did 12-hour days and weekends so he could cut the cost of staying in the UK. Based on what he learned about Stefan, David is happy that he waited until Stefan got paid before he reported the work. David was already fairly sure that Stefan was not doing the job correctly. He'd checked the 3 firms who are the only UK suppliers of the most obscure material involved in the job, and none said they'd had an order for the site. Of course, it was possible that Stefan imported, but nobody on site had seen an overseas material order. So, as planned, David contacted the local authority planning department, the client and the architect, and an organisation called Historic England. He explained his concerns and the easiest, least intrusive way of testing. Then he waited for them to look into it. It only took a couple of days, but I can honestly say that I've never been so anxious or felt so invested in something that is none of my peeing business. First report came from the architect. Wrong method used. Wrong method using the wrong materials. He'd used a 19th century Bulgarian technique, not the 17th century English that is demanded. The architect was enormously annoyed. David said he's never heard the architect use bad language before, but this phone call was blue. Apparently, Noisy Gob is called, quote, that ignorant freaking D-womble by the architect. David asked me what a D-womble is. I had no idea. Suggestions welcome, and as you can imagine, guys, I am censoring that. I think we all know what that means. The architect said he was going to contact the local authority because he doesn't want them to think this is anything to do with him. Most of the rest came to David second or third hand. He knows some of the staff from ACC. I asked if it was difficult to get them to tell him anything. He said they can't pick up the phone fast enough. The local authority planning officers visited the site and inspected the work. They told the contractor that the work was entirely wrong and must be cleared and done properly. Then it got interesting. The inspectors had a look around the site. They found an issue. I can't be specific about this because it would be too easy to identify the buildings involved. The contractor has destroyed part of the building. There was an internal feature that didn't look particularly important, but is part of the roof structure. They removed it and put in a much better modern support. But they're not allowed to. Neither the project manager or the new site manager or staff knew the importance. Guess who ordered it to be replaced? Cheap, quick option instead of repaired. Slow, expensive option. Of course, it was Noisy Gob. It's a criminal offence to destroy anything on this type of property. Jail time type of crime. Even if they don't go to jail, it's a massive fine. So now everybody in that company is pointing fingers at each other and claiming no responsibility. Noisy Gob has claimed that he didn't give the order to take out the internal parts of the roof structure. The project manager has email evidence that he did. On Tuesday the 19th, the client ordered all of the contractor staff off of the site. They're having everything examined. It's almost certain they're firing the contractor. They've issued instructions for bids from new contractors. They'll also sue the contractor for the cost of repairing and replacing everything they've done wrong. The architect's estimate was £800,000. The local authority planning department wrote to the contractor outlining what they've done wrong and advising them of their plans to inspect and the possibility of prosecution. According to the staff, Noisy Gob disappeared to the lawyers on the day the letter arrived. David had 3 different people from ACC phone him within an hour when the news of the letter circulated around the staff. So, now we're waiting for a few things. Number 1, the client's inspection. If that confirms that ACC have damaged the site, then the client has the right to fire the contractor. ACC doesn't get paid, and they have a massive repair bill. 2, local authority inspection by conservation experts. If they've destroyed features in the property, the local authority will prosecute ACC as a company and the person who ordered it. David is very unhappy because the internal structure that's been destroyed can't be replaced. In his words, that wood has been sitting there doing its job for 400 years until that freaking idiot comes into the picture. Then it's gone, and that's it. Never again. He seems genuinely sad. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Like, there's a reason, I'm sure, that he does this job. It's a very particular job, and I think to do well at it, or even to do it at all, you'd have to be very, very passionate about these buildings and how they're built and, yeah, the historic nature behind them. So for something that's been there for, 4 centuries to be destroyed, I'd be gutted too. I'm betting that Noisy Gob is wishing he got his own coffee on that day last month. Oh my goodness me, I almost forgot. That's where this all stemmed from. David just getting annoyed at Noisy Gob. Wow. Okay, now before we get into the final update, update 10 of this story, first of all, a correction and apology from OP. The letter to ACC, not their real name, did not threaten to prosecute actually. It only made them aware of the planning department's intention to send a specialist to inspect the building, and in particular the area affected by the change. Apparently, prosecution, if it happens, takes forever. My sincere apologies for misleading you all. Like everyone else, I was too keen to pick up my pitchfork and believe the worst. A combination of wishful thinking and Chinese whispers meant that by the time the story got to David, it was much more serious and advanced. Now, Noisy Gob might actually be prosecuted, but if it happens, it's more likely to be 6 months than 6 days. That is the second correction since I started. I promise to try and be a little bit more conscientious on future updates. I'm not sure about that. I feel like these are pretty minor corrections, and I wouldn't go out of my way to say I'm sorry, but thank you anyway, I suppose, OP. My fault, not David's, OP continues. David warned me, everything that goes in your ears doesn't have to spill straight out of your mouth. You're too keen to feed the masses. They might think you're farting rainbows right now, but that won't last if you make a pig's ear of the info. And he's right. As usual. As frickin' usual. As annoyingly frickin' usual. And then some requested information. A few people have asked what happened to the original site manager who was fired, but I couldn't answer until tonight. We, me, David, the site manager, and 2 others met in the pub. He definitely has the new job, subject to fidelity insurance checks, which he'll pass. He starts on the 9th of February. He got paid off in lieu of notice by ACC. It's standard practice for firing. His contract gave 3 months notice and he was owed 12 holiday vacation days, so they paid him just over 3.5 months pay in one lump. He also gets to keep the car until March. He said, "When he fired me, I was shaking like a pooing dog, but the wife reminded me that I could take my pension early, and how much I hate that company, and especially hate that dodgy pillock. Then the architect called me about the distribution centre job and I stopped worrying. He's got Christmas off and he's starting the new job on a slightly higher salary. The only downside is that the job is only guaranteed for 18 months. There's a strong possibility that the company will keep him after that if they have work, it's just not definite." Initially, he was planning to take Noisy Gob to an industrial tribunal for unfair dismissal. Now he can't because he isn't going to suffer financially. He said, "Obviously I'm glad I'm not losing money, but I was looking forward to beating that wazzock in court." Right now, he is using the extra time to build a better sleigh and some reindeer. Yep, a sleigh. Oh, what, really? An actual sleigh? It's to go on the back of a truck. His group walk around the area dressed as elves and snowmen with Father Christmas on the sleigh, playing Christmas carols at window-rattling volume, collecting donations for charity. I've been roped into it many times. Fair enough, that sounds pretty cool. He brought David the whiskey he promised. David said he shouldn't, but the site manager said, "Yorkshiremen keep their word, even to a shower of soft shandy-sipping southerners like you lot. Besides, I'm not risking breaking this lucky streak. Even the whiskey was half price." Use that if you want. Both me and David pointed at him simultaneously and said, "A real Yorkshire man." For the unaware, Yorkshire folk have a reputation for two things: very straight talking and being careful with their money. So, after having a go at him for suggesting that I was a southerner, we left the pub and went to site manager's garage so we could drink the whiskey and admire his work on the sleigh. If I tell you all how good Cardew Gold Reserve tastes, will they send me some freebies? Also, I am Welsh, by the way. Okay, not a southerner. That is why you've probably noticed some poor grammar. Anyway, I'm waffling now because I'm full of whiskey. It's 1 a.m, so it's past my bedtime. Bye for now. Okay, well, I suppose it's a good thing that Noisy Gob is getting the justice that he deserves. It's a shame that it's not as immediate as we'd hoped or maybe expected. And you know, these sort of things where it's like, okay, this might happen in 6 months' time, or yeah, this might happen in the future. I always feel like that would just fade away and people will forget, or something else will come up, or there'll be some way around it. So I don't really know if this will happen long term, sadly. Whereas if it was short term, I'd be getting excited. But yeah, I don't know. It's a shame that nothing's happening right now. I mean, it's great for the site manager, of course. I can't imagine that. It'd be very scary knowing that you're going to retire pretty soon and that you're of the age where it's going to be challenging to get another job because you're quite close to retirement. And there is obviously a little bit of prejudice towards older people who are close to retirement when it comes to hiring a new hire. But yeah, very good that he has some security. And then going back to Stefan, the Bulgarian, got to say fair play to David, because it wasn't really in his interest at all to let Stefan do that work. But for Stefan's sake, it was. He got his money, he got out of there, which is great. David didn't have to do that. He could have been quicker and said, no, look, this is going to be done in the wrong way. I'll stop this now. Or he could have very quickly, when the work had started, been like, no, stop this. This is wrong. You aren't using the correct products, whatever. But he let it happen for Stefan's sake. And I quite like that, even though it probably wasn't a good thing for the long-term future of the building, right? But yeah, look, if you've got someone that doesn't really care and is destroying 400-year-old structural bits of a listed historic building, they should not be in that role anyway, I'm sorry. And it's a shame that that has happened in the first place. All right, then, let's get into update 10. I think there might be some karmic justice on its way. Noisy Gob has been interviewed under caution. It doesn't mean they're definitely taking legal action against him, but it means they are preparing for the possibility. They also did the same with the project manager, and they're going to do it with the fired site manager next week. The site manager is confident he has nothing to worry about. The decision to remove the roof support sections was made after he was fired. He said he was confident that if he'd been there at the time of the illegal alteration, the Noisy Gob would have tried to pass responsibility. Oh my goodness, that would have been scary. Or, as the site manager put it, that cowardly, slope-shouldered turd would have pooped all over me to save his own skin. Don't worry, I'm also not going to continue the Yorkshire accent. The question is, can turds actually poop themselves? Who knows? Luckily, the project manager has proof in the form of an email that Noisy Gob ordered the work. Noisy Gob tried to persuade and bribe him not to pass it on to the people investigating this for the local authority planning department. When that didn't work, he tried to threaten him. That backfired because not only did the project manager ignore the threats, but he told the investigators that Noisy Gob told him to lose the email. I have a lawyer friend who tells me that interfering with a witness and destruction of evidence are offences in themselves. Noisy Gob won't stop digging himself a deeper hole. I'm going to be so disappointed if he gets away without legal consequences. He is definitely suffering though. That's the big news of the week. And without further ado, let's get in to another update, which is just fantastic news. The title is Noisy Gob has been fired. David announced it yesterday after he was told by no less than 4 different employees of ACC. He said they couldn't wait to tell him. Then the conversation went like this. How is that freaking possible? I asked. How does the owner get fired? Did he walk up to a mirror and say, you're as much use as Anne Frank's drum kit? You're fired? Wow. How have I never heard that before, by the way? Goodness me. David said, nope. You know he inherited the business from his dad and uncle? Yeah. You know his brother and cousin own a slice each? Yeah. Well, their combined share is over 50%. so they fired him. According to Louise, the accounts manager, they are peeing their pants. They were happy to leave Noisy Gob in charge as long as the money rolled in, but now their golden goose looks very sick. They are terrified that losing this contract and the penalties and fines will finish the business. So they're appealing to the client/property owner to take ACC back to finish the contract. Part of that involves convincing the building owner that Noisy Gob will never have anything to do with the company. Obviously, they're throwing Noisy Gob under the bus. Louise said there was screaming and threats of violence from Noisy Gob when they fired him. He had to be escorted off the premises. He's been phoning employees, asking questions, and seems surprised when people don't want to help him. According to Louise, he actually thinks the employees like him and want to be loyal to him. She said the man is in cloud cuckoo land. I said, he's going to be so annoyed. I wish I could see that numpty's face as it was happening. Yeah, me too. David said, it's nothing that the scrote doesn't deserve. There is something else, but I can't tell you because I promised the person who told me that I wouldn't tell anyone yet. Oh, you frickin' tease. How important is it? Well, it's huge. Life-changing for the subject. I wish I could tell you because it nearly gave me a hard-on. Frickin' heck. It must be big if it can get that ugly appendage to do anything except hang there like the last chicken in the shop. Your wife must have been pleased. I'm not sure about reading this out, but we're going to carry on. What drama, David said. She thinks I should tell her this thing I was told in confidence. She thinks I should be able to tell her everything because we're married. I explained it's not my secret to share. I was hoping I'd get, I appreciate you have integrity, dear husband. But no, I've got an angry missus who thinks I'm an idiot. By the way, Louise and her job title have been changed to protect the innocent. It seems like it will be a couple of months before he can give me this awesome news, so I don't want any of you holding your breath. The client/building owner has done their inspection. 2 areas are unacceptable, as expected. The damaged area and the part that David should have done but was done by Stefan. They're very unhappy. When listed buildings are damaged, the local authority normally assumes it's the owner taking shortcuts. But in this case, the owner is a crusty old institution dedicated to preserving important buildings. They're not used to being accused of anything shady, so they did not like having to prove they had nothing to do with the damage to the building. David said, it looks like they've written off ACC because they've issued a type of request for tenders to several other contractors who specialize in conservation. He then spilled a lot of jargon I neither understood or remembered. In simple English, they've asked a few companies to quote a price for the job, OP said. Yeah, that's a very simplistic way of describing it, David replied, but I don't have the time or the crayons to explain it to you, so okay, let's say they're asking for prices for the job. Crayons there is mental. You condescending Dumbo. So, I was hoping this story would build up to a crescendo with Noisy Gob suffering something horrible, but it's just sort of fizzled out with a whimper while we wait to see what legal action is going to be taken. Real life is inconveniently slow. Okay, and there we go. That is it for part 2. Sorry once again to leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger, but as I mentioned before, I'm spacing these stories out so they work the best for individual episodes. And if it was all one long episode, it would be too long for one individual video. However, there is something that I do need to tell you guys, and that is a little bit of a warning for the next episode. It gets extremely sad. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I don't really like the word spoiler in this case, and it will all become clear when I do release the next episode. But yeah, just a warning. Like, there's no amazing finale. There's no Noisy Gob doing something ridiculous and then like getting sent to prison for life or something like that. It is actually a lot more tragic than that. Just wanted to let you know now, because I think it's the right thing to do. But I will be releasing the 3rd episode anyway, and you'll see what happens. Just wanted to give you that warning before you get like super excited to see what happens next or whatever. But anyway, that is going to do it for this one. And that is really the last significant update in this story, I will say. But as I said, tomorrow, the 3rd and final episode in this saga will be released on the channel. So subscribe and turn notifications on so you don't miss it. I suppose to give some final thoughts, at least it is great that Noisy Gob has been fired. And yeah, the owner of a company being fired is brilliant. Didn't even realize his brothers or cousins or whatever were involved. That is great information to receive. But yeah, Sorry to put a little bit of a downer on the end of this episode, but it will become clear when I show you the last part of the story tomorrow. Anyway, that's it for this one. If you haven't yet seen part 1 and you're still watching this, that makes no sense, but it's on screen right now. Also, if you are lucky enough to be listening to this a few days after it's been released or sometime in the future, then the thumbnail for episode 3 is on screen right now, somewhere here as well. In fact, I won't put episode 1 up, it makes no sense. Part 3 will be on screen right now. If it's not there, it's not up yet. If it is there, it's obviously up. Click that and continue on with the story. I will catch you over there in a second.